There have been some great movie scenes over the years that have taken place in a courtroom. I always remember, "You can't handle the truth," or "Out of order, this whole court's out of order." So we thought it would be a blessing to come here in this courtroom to be able to talk and reflect a little bit about how the Holy Spirit leads our life, particularly how the Holy Spirit convicts us. If we take a look at the 16th chapter of John, 16 verse 7, it says, "But I tell you the truth, it is better that I go, for if I do not go, the advocate will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you." Now, maybe just for a second, take a look at that text in itself. Jesus is speaking to his disciples, and he says, "It is better that I go." And think about that. So oftentimes we wish Jesus would have stayed with us. We wished he would have been able to be with us personally as the disciples were with him. And I'm sure they're wondering, what do you mean it's better that you go? Stay with us, Jesus. Well, obviously, Jesus couldn't be everywhere at the same place at the same time. So when he says in this text, "It is better for you that I go," that he knows that he's going to be able to send the Holy Spirit, and he knows that the Holy Spirit will be able to be present to us at all times, that no longer will there be some moments that God isn't with us and some moments that he isn't, or that Jesus isn't with us at some time and sometimes he is. Rather, the Spirit of Jesus will be with us at all times. So he says, it's actually better that. So, the next thing he says, "And when the Spirit comes to you, he will convict the world in regard to sin. Sin, because they did not believe in me." The Holy Spirit convicts. The Greek translation is convicts, but it's also convinced, that the Spirit is going to convince us of our sin, or convict us of our sin. And that's something we need to take a look at. What does it mean that the Spirit convicts? Because oftentimes when we hear of the word conviction, even in this courtroom, somebody's convicted, what we think oftentimes is punishment, that you've been convicted and you're going to be punished. But that's not the word. That's not the essence of this word when it's used in John. When John says the Spirit convicts, it's important that we understand that the Spirit convicts in order to convert, not to condemn. The evil one wants to condemn us, but the Spirit of Jesus doesn't want us to feel condemned. In fact, Romans tells us that Jesus did not come to condemn. So this distinction between being convicted and being condemned is important. Basic, fundamental. That when the Spirit convicts us, it leads us to Jesus. The evil one wants to condemn us. So that when we become more aware of the Holy Spirit in our life, and the Holy Spirit convicts us of our sin, we actually become more aware of God's love, which seems odd that I become aware of my sin and I also become aware of God's love. But that's how we know that it's the Spirit doing it and not the spirit of the evil one. But what the evil one wants to do by condemning us, he wants to get us stuck in our past. He wants to get us stuck in our brokenness and our sinfulness. And he whispers things like, "You can never be forgiven. You've done this again." When the evil one draws to condemn us, we actually define ourselves by our slavery. We define ourselves by our sinfulness, rather than when the Spirit convicts us, we recognize that we are sons and daughters of God. Yes, we've sinned, but that we have a Father who is passionately and madly in love with us, and he always forgives us.